Greetings. Welcome to my first of two videos in which I am going to cover cameras, materials, and rendering. There's a lot to each of these three topics, and I think after this video you'll understand how they very much go hand in hand, and I think it's best to have a broad introduction to them first so that you could place cameras, you could apply materials, and you could get a quick rendering to see how it looks, and then we'll follow up with a second video where we'll get into more detail on all of these topics. So we're back at the pavilion here, and it's coming along, and now we're going to try to apply some materials. Before zooming in on the pavilion itself, I'm going to actually create some walls over on the side to which we'll apply some materials. So to start, I want to first, let's see, we'll come to architecture wall, and everything that we've put in so far have been generic walls and generic floors, meaning that there are no materials applied to them. We've been coming down here to our typically generic 8-inch walls, and it's just an empty wall, basically. I'm going to take a quick look at another one to show you, being that we're going to talk about materials, to show you how these things are made and how the editing boxes look. So this is a basic wall, exterior wall, brick on metal studs. Okay, and I'm just going to come over here to the side and draw it there, and we could jump into 3D, and there it is, a little short wall there, going from the pool, so it's only going from the pool. That's why it looks right there. We got a little more height to our wall now. So we could select it, and typically I draw in hidden line. That's how I've been demonstrating everything. But I'm going to jump into realistic, so we could see if our materials, in fact, are being applied. Let's see. There's our brick, and we zoom in from the other side. Okay, that's fine. We could look at it that way. So it's just a little dark on my screen right now, but there are bricks. We can see them there. And just to go back to an earlier point, when I go to finish floor, I'm sorry, let's go to pool. We saw it there. There it is. So the brick side is facing north. This is the brick side, and that's what these arrows indicate. They're telling us that that is the material side, and if I click on them, now it flips, and now the brick is facing on the south side. Okay, I'll keep it on the south side, I guess. So that tells us which way the materials are looking. You know, I just scrolled all the way around, so let's just flip it around, and now we have our brick wall there, and there it is, and that's our realistic view. So, not too bad. Okay. Now, to get back to, so let's first jump into the edit. So, we're going to get to ours, but this is the path to get to the materials. So, now I'm going to go, so I have my brick wall. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to jump into edit type. And there was a preview pane. This isn't always open, so you want to come down and click on that, and then extend this type properties box, and now we have a preview of what's happening there. And when we come to the structure here, so you've been here before when we were changing the heights or the thicknesses of floors. So you've been in here, you've come this far, and now I'm going to click on edit and get into the structure. So for our generic ones, there was only one line item here. Here we have 9, actually. For our generic ones, it's just 1. It might be 3, actually. Let's just take a quick look. Just cancel out of this, just so I make sure I'm telling the truth. So here we go. So there's our preview of our generic wall, and it does have 3. So it has a core boundary on each side. So the structure, which is nondescript, don't know what it is, it's 8 inches thick, and then we have a core boundary. So that's where that core begins and ends, and it's not even given a thickness. It's just like a layer of film, basically, that sits on each side of the structure. So that's what our generic ones look for. And what we're going to do is just click right on there. So we're going to material. There's nothing to click here for the core boundary, but here the structure has a material applied to it, and I could click on that, and then we get into our structure box. I'm just going to go back to our brick wall just to continue with that example. So edit type, and now I get into the structure, and let's just take a quick look at what these look like. So this is the exterior side of it, on the north, on the top of here, and the drawing, the cross section of the floor is, or the wall is oriented the same way. So we have a common brick at the top, that's right there, the red, that's our hatch for masonry. It's 3 5/8 thick. Then we have an air gap, which is 3 inches, so that would be right there, that spot. Then we have a plywood sheathing, 3/4 inch, so that would be the yellow strip. Then this is where Revit identifies the core boundary. Then we have that, and then we hit our 6-inch structure, which is a metal stud. Let's just extend that. Metal stud layer, so that's right here. All right, so that green line would be the core boundary. Then we have our 6-inch metal stud, and then we have another core boundary, another green line right there. Vapor retarder, doesn't take up any space, it's paper thin, right there. And then finally drywall, 1/2 inch. So that's what that looks like. And if we wanted to change this brick out, we could just likewise click right here. And then this is something I find annoying about Revit, is that we can't see these 3 little dots until we actually click on that word. So right there you see the drywall, the gypsum wallboard. That just appeared when I clicked on it. So I could click on the brick, that appears, the 3 dots, and now I could click on that, and now I'm into the material browser, and it's telling me that I have common brick. Here's its appearance, all sorts of information, what its hatches look like when it's cut, when we look at it in elevation, when we look at it in section, etc. Okay, so that's how we get around here. I just wanted to show you, even though we're using generic here, I wanted to give you a quick look at what that looks like. Okay, so next, I'm just going to shrink this guy down a little bit, and let's just drop a generic wall as well. So architecture, and here we go. I'm just going to drop in a 6-inch generic wall. Okay, there it is. And now I want to get a camera to look at these. So I am going to come up to the quick access toolbar, and right here where we create our default 3D view, just below it is camera. I'm going to click on that, and it is going to drop a camera on the level that I'm at. Click once, extend, click twice, and now it just opened up my camera view. And once I did that, I was there on the pool floor plan, I believe, and once I gave that second click to confirm the camera, this 3D view 1 showed up, and this is my camera angle right there, or my crop. This is my crop region, actually looking at it. So again, I've got a so in this view, in this 3D view, it's not a matter of activating and not activating. Right here it's active, and I could come in here and I could adjust things, so we have to be careful. So I could for instance come in here and get my top constraints just up to the pool. Let's bring that up to the ceiling. So a warning, what was the problem there? So we're going from the pool up to the top, bottom of ceiling, apply, there we go. Okay, so that's our generic wall, and now we have a camera staring at these 2 items. Okay, so let's go back to the, actually let's one thing I just want to show you while we're here. I'm going to click on this, and the cameras will disappear in the floor plans that you place them in. So here I am going to click on it with the left click to select it, then I'm going to right click, and I am going to show the camera. And once I do that, these little nodes appear, and then I come back to the finished floor. Or, I'm sorry, where was I? My base, I was on my base. And then the cameras appears. Okay, so again, no camera. This is my view, right click, show the camera, back to my base, and now my camera has appeared. Okay, I could pick my camera up, and I can move it and point in different directions. This is my target, just beyond my walls, and this is how far the camera is going. So again, like we talked about the sections, how we don't want to show additional clutter, perhaps beyond, we could decide where this camera view is actually going to end. Okay, so now we have a view of my 2 walls. I'm going to scooch this in, let's get a little closer so we get a tight view of this. Okay, good. And let's get back and see how that looks. And Now we just have to adjust our crop box a little bit. So I know these walls are goofy and not aligned, but this'll suffice for now. Okay, so now editing this material, I could do it from anywhere. So let's put that onto realistic. So now we could see our bricks, and I could jump into here, into my generic wall. Okay, so we jumped into edit type. Here's our preview. There's not much to look at. And here's structure. So now I'm going to jump in, edit the structure. Here's my material that I want to edit. So that is structure, material, right there. 3 dots, open. And now we are going to get into the material browser for the first time. Okay. So these are the materials that are loaded into this project. All right, we should have our common brick here. There it is. And when we click on it, a lot of things appear over here. These are the graphics, the identity, so what it's called, the appearance of it, physical information regarding it, mechanical properties actually, thermal characteristics of it. So there's a lot of stuff, in-depth stuff here. So graphics is what we're mostly concerned about when it comes to rendering. And we see what the brick looks like in elevation, what it looks like in section. As a background, it's not given a pattern. Okay, so what we want to do is begin to apply some materials to the pavilion. So our first stop is to come down here and with this button, we will create or duplicate materials. So I'm going to drop that box and I'm going to create a new material. And once I did that, this default new material came up. I'm going to right click on it and rename it now. So in the cheat sheet, what I recommend you're doing is to be specific about these materials and where they're going. So for instance, we could do, so I'm going to right click, rename, and I could do the travertine. So travertine floor. Okay, so I would say what material it is. So it's marble, it's onyx, it's chrome, it's travertine. So you have to go back to our readings about the pavilion. And I would not only tell the material, but I would also say where it's going, because you might have different ones for different places. Or you might have the same one duplicated in different places and you want to treat them differently. Okay, so now I've created my travertine floor, and there it is. So I have that selected, and my next stop now is to come here to the asset browser. It says opens or closes the asset browser. I'm going to click on that now. And here is the asset browser. So now this is when we have windows inside of windows inside of windows. And what we have to look for is what comes with our Revit program. And if we come over here to the physical assets, which are basically the material, it's the ceramic, it's the ceilings, gases, glasses, liquids, everything. It's all here. So in mine, and these could vary depending on the year, what comes with it when it gets downloaded. So if yours isn't exactly the same as mine, that's probably okay, as long as you have some materials to work with. The ones we're looking for are relatively popular, but this is what I have loaded. So physical assets 1, and then there's a whole second one there, and they look pretty much similar. Ceiling, ceramic, concrete, ceiling, ceramic, concrete. If we come up to ceiling on this one, we have only 2 choices, and when we come to ceiling on this one, we have many more choices. So you want to explore both of these. Okay. For our pavilion, and this is noted in the cheat sheet that comes along with it, the things that we are most interested in would be, let's check out masonry. So masonry includes all different types of units. There's no brick in the pavilion, there's no concrete masonry units, but there is stone. So when I click on stone, here I found travertine right there. So I could click on that, and there are the double arrows, and let's see if I just crunch this down a little bit. Let's see right up here if it populates once I hit that button. So travertine cream, populate, and it did. Good. So now our travertine floor has had travertine cream color applied to it. Okay. I'm going to close this now. Apply. Okay. So now this 6-inch generic wall should have this material applied to it. I'm going to say OK. And now what I'm actually going to do, and I should have done this at first, and this is a very important point, is that once we apply the material to the structure, whatever it is, be it our 12-inch generic floors or 8-inch generic walls, it's going to apply it to all of them. So I need to change this as well. All right, so my 6-inch generic wall is going to become, I'm just going to call this Test 1 Travertine Cream. Okay, because these are tests that are over on the side. Now I'm going to say OK, and hopefully that all applied right there, and it looks like success. That is the travertine. All right, so this is just a sample wall over on the side. I'm just going to open this up. And if I hadn't renamed it, so now when I click on it, it comes up here with that new name, Test 1 Travertine Cream. If I didn't rename it, every wall in the pavilion would be the same. And you're going to have to go through and look at the photographs and determine which materials go where. So I'm going to do a Control-C and a Control-V. And there's my next wall. Okay, so this one, we're going to select it, come back to Edit Type. I could duplicate it. I'm going to call it Travertine 2. I don't know what travertine color I will find. I will say OK. Back to Edit. Back to the material that I want to edit. I will create a new material. Create new material. Whoops. Where did I go? Here, new material, right click, rename. I think it was Floor Travertine 2. We'll do. Okay. So all that did was apply. I just applied it. So this one is Travertine 2. Okay. Travertine Test 1, Travertine Test 2, so two different walls. This one has this material, travertine floor, applied to it. And this one has the same material applied to it. Now I'm going to come back here. And I should have, what did I do? Floor travertine in the other direction. Floor travertine. So I have travertine floor and floor travertine. So in general, that's not the way we want to do things when they're in alphabetical order. But different materials applied to different walls. So I have two different wall types, and they each have a different material applied to them. And then I'm going to render and decide what I like best. So I'm here now. It's actually the same material that's applied at this point. Or actually, no, nothing's applied to this one. This one's just a generic one that's empty. So now I could click back on here to my asset browser, and let's open these up. So there is one. So we checked out masonry. I wasn't expecting much. I was surprised I found travertine there at all. So slate, limestone, granite, none of those are in there in our building. So what's going to be most promising is just if you come right down to stone right here. So we do have marble and we don't have granite. So there's only one marble in here. Okay, I'm going to keep looking for travertine. So I'm going to close this one. And now I'm going to come to the second, the appearance library. And here's our second folder for masonry, stone. So there's a lot to choose from here. Again, marbles. So we have a lot of marbles to choose from, which is good. And more travertine. So there's cream. That might be the same. We could apply it. And we have dark brown travertine and dark red. So that floor is not dark brown or dark red. So this might just be the same one, but we could at least take a look. Okay, so that's stone. So onyx, and we do have some onyx here as well. There's a rose onyx. So it's really a red onyx, but this will probably get us close enough. Maybe for the next project, we'll talk about bringing in JPEGs and creating our own materials. But for this project, assuming you have as much as I do, this should suffice. All right, so I'd circle back, I'd explore the onyx, and I'd look into all the different marbles as well. Okay, so we applied our second travertine cream, which might be the same as the first, but all we could do is look and see if they're by chance different. Okay, so floor travertine 2, and we've applied the travertine cream to it. Okay, okay, and okay. And they look suspiciously similar to me. But nonetheless, we will take a look. Okay, so that is cameras, that is applying materials, and now the final step is to render it. Okay, so we will come to View and Presentation and Render. All right, let's bring this in. Let's see. No, this should suffice for our purposes. Let's just tighten this up. We could just bring a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Okay. Yeah, I would take more care. When you do this study, you should make smaller walls that are closer to each other, properly aligned, and then you could see everything in a smaller rendering. All right, so neatness would help, and I didn't take too much care with that, but you will get the point. So then we just come to render. Click on render. This we could always save as we go, and then this rendering box shows up. So we will dig more into this later. Just to get things started, though, the box will render the region. That would be just what's on the screen, actually, or we would choose a region, actually, and that's just if you have a big rendering and you only care about one part of it, you're just struggling to get the water right, for instance, you don't need to re-render the entire shot. You just have to, you could zoom in on a region and just redo that until you get it right. This is very important. So this affects the time, and well, it's the quality, but it also affects the amount of time. So I did talk about the importance of rendering in the cloud, and you will want to get into that, because once you start rendering, nothing else could really happen on your computer at that time. So a best rendering, that will take some time. High will also take, well, it depends on your computer ultimately. I'm going to go for a medium. We could do a draft to start, but it's so fuzzy it's almost useless. So for our purposes, screen is okay because I'm only going to be looking at digital submissions, but in general, it's better to make print quality, probably 300 or 600. If you're ever going to print your material, which when we back, if we're on campus, that would be important. If we're doing this online, then it's only digital, so it's not as important, but it's general good practices to treat everything like it's going to be printed. Then you have big files that will provide flexibility in the future. I'm going to keep my stuff small so that I could run it more quickly at this point. I will not require bigger images, but in general, it's good practice. So then there's lighting issues. So we're going to have the sun only. We're not going to have any artificial light inside our pavilion for our second project. We will get into that. So we could talk about being inside the building or outside the building, sun only, artificial only, or a mix. For our purposes now, exterior sun only. Clouds and adjust exposure, we'll talk about that later. So then this is just a draft. Let's see how quickly it happens. We hit the render button. And then at this point, if we want to save it, we have to save it here. If we close this box, we're going to lose it. Or you could export it to get it out and to put it into Photoshop. I'm just going to close that. Oh, no, that did that. Once I did that, that closed my rendering because I didn't save it. So let's just do that one more time real quick. And render. So don't close the box. Either save it to the file or export it. So I'll just save it for now. We could get rid of it later. So I will call this travertine test 1. And you could name it by calling it a draft. That's probably a good habit as well. So now I could close this, and right here in my project browser, renderings, and there it is, and I double click and it has been created. So, and I zoom in on it, you could see that it becomes mush. It just becomes mush. So I would actually rename this guy Travertine Test. You can leave the 1, and then I would just say draft. And we could just get a sense of the color from a distance, really. So let's go back. Let's go back one more time, and let's do that again. So back to view, to render, and I'm just going to move it up to medium. I don't expect this, I'm going to keep this on screen actually. I don't expect that would make a difference unless I don't think it would matter on the screen how it would show up. Okay, so let's just go with a medium view. Click render, see how quick. Okay, and we'll save this to the project. And what did I call that? Down in renderings, I called it Travertine Test 2 medium. Okay, we could close that. And now we're on medium. And now we're on. So I would call it, that's medium, and that's draft. So the medium's a little bit better, definitely noticeable. Let's do it one more time. One more. And because let's just get to high, and one more time. Render. See how quick this goes. Because the draft is so poor that it's almost useless in terms of judging it. That's kind of my point. It's still rendering here on the side. So this is gonna be a question of your computer. I could hear my computer kind of humming in the background now as it's doing this. But to get through this high one in a matter of 30 seconds is pretty good. But this is a pretty strong computer. And you're going to want to get to the best ones. And then, so here's adjust exposure. If we click on that, we could, so there really aren't any highlights to speak of here. We'll talk about the sun later. Apply. Apply. So the white point, that's kind of the highlights. Yuck. So we'll return to this earlier on shadows to speak of, and I'm just going to cancel. So there is some opportunity later for fine tuning it, and of course there's Photoshop. Let's save this one, and then I think we'll be done for now. Oops, I didn't mean to render again. Stop that. Yes, we could quit that operation. Okay, so render high, all good. Save to the project. One more time. With our Travertine Test 3 high. So very important to take care about naming things and being kind of systematic about them. All right, so here's our higher one. Yeah, they're all relatively fuzzy. Perhaps if I moved it up to the print level, it would get a little bit better. From this distance, it looks decent though. The color and the quality of the texture, yeah, I'd say the quality of the texture and the scale of the texture is decent. Okay, so that's how I would start. I would start searching for the materials, and then I would start with some practice walls and getting this. And let's see if we can see how our brick is so. That's how I would start. Applying some materials to some test walls and getting some sample renderings, and then I will return for a second one where we will get into the pavilion and get a little more detailed about it inside those boxes. Okay, good luck. Thank you.